What would living in Vila de Conde look like? Or maybe it's just worth a visit for you. Either way, you should know what it's like here, which we're going to help you out with that right now. We've been living in Portugal for 3.5 years and have made hundreds of city guides. So Vila de Conde, here we go. Vila de Conde is in the north region of Portugal and is a sub-district of the Porto region. It's considered to be one of the oldest settlements in northern Portugal. It's about 30 minutes driving from Porto and only 15 kilometers from Porto's airport.
Porto's metro actually connects to Vila de Conde through line B, the red line. The trip will take you anywhere between 40 and 50 minutes depending on where in Porto you start from. And remember, there are express trains which will skip a few stops and get you in Vila de Conde faster. It costs just over €3 if you buy a single ride, but you can also use different metro passes to make it much cheaper. Just make sure you check the zones.
It's a fairly large municipality with some of the parishes along the Atlantic coast and others that are a bit inward. The population is still only around 80,000 people though. A little over half of the population is the age range from 25 to 64, but you see all ages here.
Sometimes the northern area of Portugal can have a bad reputation for weather. So what's Vila de Conde like?
You'll get a decent amount of rainy days in the winter months. There are storms that can blow in from the Atlantic, and since a lot of it's along the coast, you'll catch that rain. There's far less rain in the summer, and if you do get rain, it's more like a drizzle.
However, it doesn't get that cold, with winters generally staying in the 40s and 50s. It also doesn't get that hot in the summer, with average temperatures staying in the 60s and 70s. So pretty temperate and nothing too extreme.
Because of its proximity to the water, you have a variety of water sports you can explore. You have the Ave River, so there are river activities such as kayaking, but then you also have the Atlantic, so you can go for surfing.
That's right. And there are many beaches to relax on as well. Some of the water can get choppy with the rocks, but you can swim in the ocean if you like, and you also have cafes along the beach to relax at.
There's a paved pathway for you to walk, whether you're doing this for leisure or for exercise, and then you also have a bike lane for the same thing.
Like we said before, the municipality of Vila de Conde is quite large. So let's hone in on the city center as a place to live. Let's check out what costs are like here.
Let's start with housing. Keep in mind that Vila de Conde is pretty big, so when considering location, you might want to be close to the city center or to the beach. That's preference though, of course.
Yep, and if you're further out, then you might want to be close to a metro stop or have a car. Since it has a lot of beach area, you'll notice that real estate prices rise as you get closer to the beach, and of course, if you have an ocean view.
There's not a great supply for long-term rentals, but for a T1, you'll pay around 800 to 900 euros a month, and for a T3, it's closer to 1,200 to 2,000 euros. Most of the rentals are closer to the coast compared to inland.
Now, while there aren't many rentals, there are loads of properties to buy here. However, there aren't really hidden gems here. You're looking to pay at least 100,000 for a fixer-upper. There are new builds that are available and being built, along with nicely renovated apartments, but for a T1, expect to pay at least 150,000 euros.
You can also find T1 luxury apartments near the beach for 450,000 euros, but when you go bigger like a T3, you can find luxury apartments for over $1 million. Then of course you have everything in between, so quite a range. Location, amenities, and the condition of the accommodation will play a big part in the price.
Yep, a meal at an inexpensive restaurant will cost you around 10 euros. For a 3-course meal for 2 at a mid-scale restaurant, it'll cost you 35 euros. When you go out, make sure that you try seafood like sardines or octopus rice, as seafood is common here due to its proximity to the water.
A coffee out will be around 150 and a beer around 2 euros. If you head to the grocery store, you'll find a liter of milk for around 1 euro and a kg of apples for around 2. A dozen of eggs will be 2.50 to 3 euro.
Now earlier we mentioned water sports and relaxing at the beach, but Vila de Conde is also known for being an important industrial center. It's also a fishing port, and domestic tourists as well as European tourists visit for the culture and the sea.
There's no shortage of cultural events, festivals, and concerts here. Be sure not to miss the bob and lace and fisherman's wool. Finding artisanal clothing and goods is easy here and gives you an authentic feel.
The Camino de Santiago goes through here, so you'll notice many backpackers, restaurants offering pilgrim menus, and the famous shell, which is a symbol of the path.
The municipality's website and town's tourist website both do a great job of giving updates with what's going on and other services you might need.
It would be easy to live here and work in Porto. So as far as jobs, you have tourism, anything water related, fishing, industrial, and much more. Of course, you can find jobs here or head into Porto. If you're looking for a quiet place to retire, that's available too.
From an archaeological heritage to the religious sites to the beach, Vila de Conde is connected to Porto by metro and not far from its airport. Some might say it's small but mighty. So, would Josh and I live here?
Let's talk about that. So, I think that Vila de Conde is a place that, with its proximity to Porto, is a very interesting spot for those that don't want to live in a city,
Yeah.
in the big city of Porto.
The big city, right? I mean, obviously, we always say the cities of Portugal, Lisbon, Porto, Braga, but, city is relative, I guess, in size. But if you wanted something that's not as big, then Vila de Conde is a really good option.
Now, we oftentimes talk about amenities and what different amenities exist in different cities. The one thing that struck me in all of our visits to Vila de Conde, in terms of amenities, is the variety of restaurants it has.
They do have a lot of variety, different types of cuisine, Korean, Indian, and so on. So you could actually find that, which, I think a lot of people think in smaller towns, you're going to be lacking those things. So you have to go into the big city to get those, but they actually offer those.
Now, we don't know if all of those restaurants are any good.
Right, we haven't tried them all.
But they exist.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of restaurants, I find that because of how compact Vila de Conde is, it would actually be possible to try a wide variety of those restaurants.
Yeah, definitely.
Whereas in Porto or in Lisbon, for example, it gets a bit tricky. It's a little challenging. And maybe you might even over time just get stuck into a rotation of ones that you found that you liked, and you have to force yourself to branch out.
Right. Now, when we say Vila de Conde, the municipality does go quite far inland, but we're talking a lot more closer to the water and to the city center area, because you can live out there. You'll get a little more space, probably maybe a landed home with a yard, but you'll definitely want a car. If you're over closer to where the metro stop is, to the city center, to the water, then it's going to be a different feel from the inland.
Totally. And I think if you live in that area that Kalie's talking about, that closer town center, city center area, you don't need a car.
You don't.
You absolutely do not need a car. You have good connectivity to the end of the line, to the north, which is Povo de Varzim, which is pretty similar to Vila de Conde in terms of what it offers, but you've got it there. A little bit of a cultural difference maybe. But then also, as you go south down the metro, you hit Porto, Gaia. So you have your options in terms of public transportation to get out and about. So I don't think that you would feel as landlocked or isolated. The one thing that could be challenging is if you're wanting to travel by train or maybe by bus, then you're having to come into Porto for that.
Right, yeah.
So at that point, if you're an adventurer and you like to get out of not just your town or region, get out and explore the country, you might want a car for that.
The car, right.
If that's your bag.
But it's not too far from the airport. Since Porto's airport is the northern part and Vila de Conde is north of that, then it's actually not that far, and you can get the metro there. So if you're going to fly, it's a good option for being close to the airport but being in a smaller town, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, one thing that struck me in our visits going to Vila de Conde, and even when we did the interview with the people at Humble Anchor, is walking around the town. People are really nice.
They are nice, yes.
Very, very nice. Very kind of hometown feel, not skeptical what is this foreigner doing here, but very hospitable and welcoming. Could have something to do with the Camino. So it's a little more open, they're more used to it. Definitely a difference between Povo de Varzim and Vila de Conde in that aspect. I
totally agree. And now that you say that, Chaves was also like that opening, welcoming feel, and they have the Camino, and it starts at the A1 and everything. So they're used to maybe more tourists and stuff. So they're not as skeptical. But in Povo de Varzim, people seem really skeptical of who are these people? Why do they have a camera? So that's true. So Vila de Conde, the people seem really nice, very open, and even when Josh was just filming, just trying to get shots of something, people would either wait, or we had a lady who said, the aqueduct, if you want to look at that, there's a really good view around here, so just being really helpful, which I thought was really sweet. So yeah, the people are really nice. I would say too, by the water, you have a lot of options for things. You can get into the water, you can lay out, there's the surf, this is the coast, right? Then there's also walking and the bike lane, the cafes. So near the water is really cool, but it does have a different feel. The city center area and closer to the water, they're not that far from each other, but they have a different feel. I'd say the beachy part feels like it probably gets pretty busy, or a lot busier during the summers with the beach goers, right? The people going on vacation.
Yeah, absolutely. I also noticed the style of architecture that existed closer to the beach, several blocks before you get to the beach. It actually reminded me a lot of the kind of wealthier, more affluent part of Porto, which is Boa Vista. There's also another area that looks like this in Porto. But I noticed that, and then I also noticed that in some of the older, let's say like the old area, the old town of Vila do Conde, the architecture was like two-story. It'd be like ground level and then first floor.
Not too high, right?
Yeah, it was not too high. So you're not going to find a bunch of like skyscrapers with, large views out over the city.
The highest buildings are probably by the water so that you can have a view of the ocean.
That's
right?
it.
Or maybe a little closer to the river as well, just because of the views there.
Yeah. There might be an odd one that I'm not thinking of, but yeah, most of the housing I saw, like that was in at least the older style, was just ground floor, first floor, and some of the newer stuff being built might be a couple stories higher, but it's nothing grand.
Yeah. They're known for some of the artisanal things that they have, which is really nice. So it seems like there's more culture there compared to some other places. So you have that. Yep. And I think something that I really like, which, not artisanal, but they've got these great outlets. So the Vila do Conde outlets there, it's just a really nice layout, nice setup. It's enclosed, so if it's raining or bad weather, no problem. You can go shopping. The deals are good. So the outlet mall is really good there.
Shocking. Kalie loves shopping.
The shopping.
The other thing I wanted to remark on is that there is a football team there. But it did seem, and the football team's named Rio Ave, but it did seem like a lot of people supported one of the big three, and mainly it was people supporting FC Porto. Proximity to Porto makes sense.
Yeah.
And like, we win stuff.
And Porto, yeah.
So supporting Rio Ave might be difficult because you're never challenging for things.
Yeah.
So if you're wanting to move here and get into the culture, because football, soccer is very much a part of the culture, then you'll want to like choose a team. It'd be very easy to go to the Rio Ave games compared to making the trip to FC Porto matches. But you're not going to be winning anything.
Now, that being said, you can really take a direct the metro line all the way to the stadium
all the way to
in Porto.
Dragão, yeah.
So you're just sitting on there for a while, but
very true.
Doable. Okay, so I feel like we've kind of gushed a little bit about Vila do Conde. We've talked about it a lot. So I think we're at that point.
Would we actually live there? So the question is, would you expat that? Would you want to live in Vila do Conde for, let's say, the medium term, a couple years, whatever?
I would say if I am looking for not a big city, but a medium-sized city, for Portugal, medium-sized city. It's obviously a medium-sized city is different in Spain, for example, but smaller. And then Vila do Conde would be an amazing place to go. I think that the people are really nice. There is quite an age range. We talk about like the main age range, but you do see families and kids and then older people. So it's quite an age range. The people are really nice. It's connected to Porto really easily to the airport. It's got the water, a cool beach feel. So if I was looking for something a little slower paced, I would say yes, I would expat that. But currently, in my current state, the current stage of life, I'm going to say no, I would not expat Vila do Conde. You?
Well, I'm going to go ahead and keep it short and say
Always.
No, for the same reasons that Kalie said. I think that it's just not the pace of life that I'm looking for yet, but definitely Vila do Conde works for a lot of people out there.
Yes.
I'm not going to say most, but there are a lot of people where you need to take a look at Vila do Conde if some of the things that we've said resonate with you.
Right. Retired, looking for a slower pace of life, living there and coming in for work. Loads of options actually for Vila do Conde.
You're right, it is a great place, and if you want to check out another place that we referenced in this video, click on this video right here about Povo de Varzim. Now, let's get moving. Bye.